Hello and welcome to the Car Care on the channel. And folks, today we got a treat, a serious treat. Third generation 4Runner was one of those generations that this was not a luxury car. This was just a serious off-roader, basic car, beautiful engine, very simple car. I mean, extremely simple from every level. They don't have a lot of problems. Most of their problems are age-related. But this particular one is a treat. It has a great story. Let's start the video. We'll tell you what the treat about this particular one is and what the story behind it is right after this. This is a 2000 Toyota 4Runner. Not the Limited. This is actually closer to the base model. This car has 42,000 miles. That is, I'll just let you simmer in that in a bit. It is so beautiful, but at the same time, it has had nothing done to it from day one, just oil changes. Second set of tires. Everything else is original. Nothing has been done. No timing belt, no coolant change, nothing. Nothing. And this isn't right now is an Illinois car, but it has zero rust. And the reason for that is the original owner of this car, what a fine gentleman, I gotta say that, bought this car and shipped it to Greece, where this was their vacation car. So whenever they go visit back home, they'd use this car over there. So this car never saw salt because they live in Illinois. And never really saw a lot of miles because they only use it when they went there. And because this was technically a U.S. car, the dealerships over there were like, yeah, we don't want to really work on it because it's not our wheelhouse. We don't have a 4Runner per se. They do have something similar. So they just did oil changes and one set of tires. Let's take a tour around it because this thing is just unbelievable how beautiful it's been. Not the most body-wise, not the most preserved, because of course it sits and sits for a very long period of time, but let's just walk around it. Everything in this car is original, except the tires. That's the only thing that happened to it. It is in need of a serious detail, but you could tell it'll come up. This has probably never had a proper deep car wash in its entire life, but it looks like this. Isn't that something? So you notice the mirror is a very shiny black compared to the rest. That's actually a mirror we just installed because the original mirror had a break right here. We replaced the mirror. He was actually surprised that this was still available original and these come pre-painted because this is not a cheapo mirror. This is a proper old school mirror. Walking around it, these tires are from 2007. This is where I really start to feel old. Every time I think of 2007, it feels like it was a few years ago. I mean, I still remember what I was doing in 2007. That was 17 years ago, folks, for the older crowds out there. You remember 2007? I do. That's how old these tires are. And if we had a child that day, it would be 17 years old. That's pretty scary. 17-year-old tires, folks. They definitely need to go. Badly need to go. Walking around it here, it's just, you can't, I just love this. This is what is quickly becoming one of my favorite 4Runners. We have so many of them in the shop. They do love to rust. We'll look at this one. This one has nothing. Just so basic. Look at this taillight. We don't need to make it all swoopy and going all, it's just a giant box. This looks so beautiful. Look at the chrome, not faded. Everything was just built like a tank. That's when they spend all their research and development on good materials and good quality, not design and fancy lighting and infotainment. I mean, speaking of infotainment, let's look at that inside. And then get more basic than that. Now look at this. Cassette player, anybody? With some dust from Greece here. CD player. Super basic radio. This was actually a fancy radio back in the day because it did both. I love this. I mean, let's once I find the keys, where did Jose put the keys? Hey, Jose left the keys in his pocket. Let's look at that mileage. $42,720. So how many 4Runners do you get into? And if you own one of these, you get into, and the shifter is tight. It's not wobbly all over the place. These love to go through bushings. Not a lot. This one is originally like that, not been fixed. Of course, manual transfer case, parking brake that works. This is a rare thing with these. They love to seats up, especially in our area, because folks don't use them. But look at these seats, folks. Everything is just, this is not some collector car that sat in a little bubble and everything. No, this is just people that took care of their car, flat out. Doesn't need a little bit of cleaning. It's been sitting for a long time, but it's just beautiful. I love these. Let's look at the back seats. I don't think many people sat here. Just, these are cloth seats that are this color. They're very easy to get dirty, but this looks beautiful. Look at this headliner. Everything holds up so well on these. It's unbelievable. Let's look at the back. So this is another thing on these. This handle loves to seize. This one works perfectly. The original floor mat. Look at this. This is the kind of car that really makes me happy, folks. Look at this. We get these with like 200,000-300,000 miles, and they're still in good shape. We actually have one over there with almost 300,000 miles. It's basically, other than a few road rash and whatnot, basically runs exactly the same. Let's look under the hood, because that's where things are at. At least for us here in the shop anyways. Would you look at this? This is, to me, one of the most underrated engines in the history of Toyota. Honestly, I just have to say the truth. See, this engine had a slight bad reputation from the engine that came before it, the 3VZ, the head gasket 3VZ. This one, however, doesn't have any of that. This thing just runs and runs and runs. Super DIY friendly, super simple to work on. Parts are available, designed so well. It's a total hidden gem, this motor, folks. And here's what we did to this car for you to know. We'll start on it. We'll look underneath it as well. So this car came in with a very questionable timing belt sticker. We believe the timing belt never been done. We believe somebody somewhere in Greece slapped a sticker and called it a day, because going through this motor, nothing has been done. It looks like nobody's been there. And my telltale sign was when we pulled the water pump. The water pump had sealer on it, not a gasket. See, this motor, when it came out, they decided we're going to put sealer where the water pump goes. Later on, they decided, okay, this is a very bad idea. And I agree with them. That's a horrible idea for a timing belt engine. They put a metal gasket, and they changed it. And that's how actually you know on these if it's ever been done. This one was not done because it had sealer. We actually spent a lot of time cleaning it because it was disintegrated. So we did a timing belt, and every time on these, if you own one, every time you do a timing belt, you got to pull the radiator out. Put a new one if it's original. This is, of course, an original one. These have a tendency, when the radiators get old, they mix transmission fluid in the transcooler at the bottom and coolant, and that's a disaster waiting to happen. So every time you do a timing belt on these, you got an original radiator, replace it. Same thing with the radiator hoses, especially the lower one. This lower one right here, the one that goes to the thermostat housing. This one loves to leak. That's one thing with these, especially when you take it out, it just never goes back and it starts leaking. That's another one we always replace. Now, the spark plug wires. This was another thing that many do not know about Toyota spark plug wires. Do you know the original Toyota spark plug wires have a date on them. See, this is upside down. Maybe Jose will do some editing magic and flip this. This says 1999. This is a 2000 car, so that makes sense. These are actually the original wires. However, they run perfectly fine. Spark plugs, we did change as well. The last thing that we had an issue with, and this was kind of strange. So when the owner brought the car, they're like, this car has had zero maintenance or very questionable maintenance. We want to go through everything. We want to change all the fluids. We want to make sure the timing belt's done. We want to go through the whole car because now we brought it back here. We're going to actually preserve it and drive it. This has kind of become like a family heirloom, and I get it. I mean, imagine they drove this car only when they went on vacation back home. What a happy car, and how many happy memories they have in this car. So he noticed that it sat for a very long time before they decided to bring it back here because they were not going there anymore. It hesitated. Like you accelerate, it just doesn't feel as smooth as it once was. It was like losing power. He figured maybe it has old gas, maybe he didn't. Actually, it had none of that. We ended up finding the mass airflow. So we ended up replacing it. I tried to clean it, it wouldn't respond. It was full of sand. You notice there's a lot of very strange sand. I mean, we tried to clean this. This is after cleaning. This stuff ain't coming off. It's like caked on there. Now, once we saw that, this stuff, you may be able to clean it, but this kind of needed professional detail because this car deserves it, because once you look underneath it, you'll know. But the mass airflow, very simple. Want to drive it, you hook up your scan tool, look up data list, look up calculated load. That is like a data list item. When this car is fully warmed up, when you fully accelerate, this is by the way all Toyotas, when you fully accelerate, pedal to the metal, you should see up to 90% on the calculated load. Sometimes 80, 85, to up to 90. This one was only going to 50%. Sometimes it creeps up to 55, then it goes back. That's the first sign that you have a bad mass airflow. So I took it apart, cleaned it, put it back. Now we're seeing 62, 63. It increased a little bit, but still. If you clean it and it doesn't want to respond, you gotta get a new one. There's no way around it. So we actually got a new mass airflow. They're very available, and that's a cool thing. But let's put this car on the lift. I want you to see it because the color of the sand that it has is something we don't see around here. And you could tell this car was somewhere else in the world. So let's take a look underneath this thing, and then we'll talk about other things that we've done to it other than the fluids and some complications that we had. That's why it sat here for a while, actually. So let's look at this frame. That's really the biggest thing. You notice this very strange appearance of color. We don't have stuff that's almost like white. I'm guessing this is from Greece. Guys have white sand over there or something like that. This thing is just, it does need a cleaning underneath here, but everything is just an immaculate shape. So a common spot for these to rot is right here. Hey, look at this. Looks like brand new. If I take a pressure washer right now, this will look like new. Same thing in this area. This is another area that loves to rot in these. That's completely solid. There's nothing. That's the best part. So this car, mechanically, repair-wise, only needed rear shocks. And you notice these shocks actually took a while. They were in a little back order there, but we got them. Another thing that was going on with this truck, one of the axle seals, it's been so long that we've done these. I don't recall if it was this side or this side. We did both. I think it was this side. You see some of the shadow. Well, the axle seals were leaking in the back, so figured if we're gonna do the fluid here, we're gonna do axle seals. So we did. We clean adjust the rear brakes as well. Of course, the parking brakes. If you come around, we'll show you this. This is something common. That's why the parking brake seizes on these. This little crank seizes, but look at this one. That's what, so right now the wheel's flowing. When you pull the parking brake, it pulls this. Now it's locked up. Same thing on this side. That's how you check them. You make sure this moves. See how this one moves? It's locked, it's not locked. That's how the parking brake works, and these love to seize up, and we have all kinds of problems. So we replaced all the fluids, replaced the rear shocks, replaced the rear axle seals. But then we had a major operation. So going in to do the timing belt, that's not a major operation. That's very simple maintenance on these. Do radiator hoses and whatnot. We go to pull one of the idlers that has the tensioner on it, that's the one that swings. I'll leave a picture of it right here. The thread came out with it from the oil pump. Well, you can't really heel coil it because the cap is right there. You can't drill through it to make the hole big enough, so you got to remove it out of the car. Well, if we're going to remove it out of the car, it's a $190 part. This is not a car you try to save a few bucks on. You want to do it perfect. So we're going to put an oil pump. In order to do the oil pump, you got to drop the front diff. Not a huge job, but still, it's a little bit more involved. But we had problems with parts. So this sat for a while until we were able to get these parts. It sat with its timing belt off until we got the parts. And then when we got the parts, shops were so busy, we kind of moved on with other cars. So we had to re-establish its position in the queue. And then as we get to it, that's how we work with long-term projects. This car has been here for a while. Obviously, this is not a car they use daily. This has been in Greece for a long time, parked, until they figured out how to bring it here, and they got it back here because they're no longer going frequently. But took a while, but we got it. This car drives like a brand new car. There's no other way to describe it. It does need a really heavy clean. This is something I talked about with the customer. We made some recommendations for detailing shops, but this is going to need a serious cleaning inside and out. Get rid of all this white stuff because this thing otherwise will look brand new. And in case you're wondering, this here is not a fuel leak. This is something we were just talking about. So when we took this shock out, it was seized at the top, and we had to cut the shock. And we got a little carried away. One of the shocks started leaking, so it leaked here. That's why this looks significantly cleaner than the rest. But what a beautiful car, folks. This is, I mean, this video does not do this justice. I know it looks dirty, but it has 42,000 miles. I mean, if this car had 200,000 miles, it would look like this. This has 42,000 miles. Everything in that motor looked almost brand new. Even the timing belt was not bad. That's the beauty. It's not even an interference motor. It'll just run and run. This has been an absolute pleasure to first know the story of this car and why it is an Illinois car that has 42,000 miles and has zero rust. And then the gentleman that owns it and the family that owns it, what a beautiful, just beautiful people. I just have to say that. You know, I hope they watch this video. I think they will. It's about their car, and this car is very important to their family. They are beautiful people. They're so patient. I tried to give them as much update as possible. They never once called. They're like, is my car done? Come on, what's going on? They were very relaxed and chilled. Every once in a while, they very softly ask on a text message, hey, we missed the car. Is everything going well? Everything's going great. We were just waiting for some of these parts, but now that we're done with it, they're actually picking it up next week. And guess where they're at right now as we're filming this video? That's why we're done with the car. We're just waiting for them to come pick it up. They're in Greece, but this time without the car, because the car is back home. And this is the story of the 42,000 mile 2004 4Runner from Greece. What a absolute privilege to be able to work on this and hear the story of it. What fascinating people. But this car now is all caught up with maintenance, doesn't need anything else. She's ready for some miles. I hope not winter miles, because we made it 24 years without rust, without salt. And I hope it doesn't get it now, but I'm pretty sure the family will want to preserve it because this became part of their kind of family. This is a member of the family now. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some other videos. Until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.